Chapter 224. After Catherine left the hillside, she quickly returned to her village and gathered all the people in the village together. After Catherine gathered everyone, she immediately announced, "We can't stay here anymore. We have to leave and migrate elsewhere." Dick, a half-blood beastman with a pair of tiger ears, gave a long sigh and said, "We don't have much food. Besides, where are we going to migrate to? There's no place for us half-blood beastmen to survive." Bitterness welled up in the hearts of the half-blood beastmen present. Chuck, a tiger tribe half-blood beastman with a pair of tiger ears, a sturdy figure, and a 60% resemblance to Dick, suddenly pointed at a half-blood beastman with a pair of lion ears standing next to Catherine and asked, "Catherine, who is he? Why haven't I seen him before?" The half-blood beastmen also looked strangely at the lion-man half-blood beastman Yang Feng standing next to Catherine. Yang Feng said with a light smile, "Hello, I am one of the divine emissaries sent by the mighty god Ian to help you. My name is Caesar." After he finished speaking, frightening Sky Knight rank chi spread from Yang Feng, making it hard for the many half-blood beastmen present to breathe. After warlocks used secret methods to condense a soul seed and establish a spirit sea, the power they obtained was named life energy by warlocks. It could simulate a variety of powers, and chi was no exception. Most of the half-blood beastmen present weren't even knights and hadn't cultivated chi. As such, they couldn't resist Yang Feng's imposing aura. Divine emissary. There really is a god who wants to help us. Thank the heavens have finally opened their eyes. When the half-blood beastmen felt the formidable aura released by Yang Feng, tears streamed down their cheeks and they muttered. When Chuck sensed the bottomless and frightening aura released by Yang Feng, he couldn't help but feel dispirited. He was well aware that with his strength, he would never be able to practice cultivation to Yang Feng's level. When Dick saw this, he no longer doubted Yang Feng's identity. The dozens of people in the half-blood beastman village weren't enough for Yang Feng to kill. If Yang Feng wanted to capture all of them and sell them as slaves, then they wouldn't have the strength to resist. These half-blood beastmen couldn't think of anything that could be plotted against them. After displaying his power, Yang Feng smiled and retreated to Catherine's side. Yang Feng needed to control half-blood beastmen through Catherine. After all, there were too many things that Yang Feng needed to do. In fact, every deity would have countless subordinates to share their burdens. Otherwise, even if they had divinity, they would be exhausted and would not have the time to train and enjoy themselves. Catherine's beautiful eyes flickered with expectation, and she said loudly, "Red Earth Wasteland." With his tremendous divine power, the great god Ian built a city for us half-blood beastmen in the Red Earth Wasteland and purified a huge piece of land. There we have food to eat, clean water, and a safe place to live. We can live with dignity there and no longer be anyone's slave. A city that belongs to us beastmen. Wonderful! If that's the case, that would be great. The beastmen all cried tears of joy. A city that belonged to half-blood beastmen. This was the dream of half-blood beastmen for thousands of years. However, this was just a dream that no one had ever been able to realize. This was because they had no knowledge and no power. No one was willing to impart knowledge and power to these pitiful half-blood beastmen, because they were the product of tragedy and were despised by everyone. Catherine said with a solemn expression, "However, the city that belongs to half-blood beastmen can only be entered by believers of the great god Ian. If you want to enter the city with me, then you must believe in the great god Ian, the sole god of us half-blood beastmen. Those who are unwilling can leave now." "I am willing to believe in the great god Ian." "Me too." None of the half-blood beastmen present refused to believe in Yang Feng. In the face of the pressure of reality, they just wanted to live well. No matter which god gave them a way to live, they would believe in that god. This is an idol given to us by the god Ian. We need to pray to him every day to become his believers. At the same time, he will send divine emissaries to bless and protect us. Catherine took out an idol with a face 80% similar to Yang Feng's, yet it was shrouded in a layer of misty light, making it hard to see clearly, and placed it on the table. "Now, let's carry out a prayer ceremony. Learn from me." Catherine clenched her hands, closed her eyes, and silently recited a prayer. Great Lord Ian, you are the ruler of half-blood beastmen, a supreme divine being. You are the monarch of light. You are the sower of fear. Great Lord Ian, you are the invincible god of war. You are the guardian of the good and the weak. Great Lord Ian, we offer you our most pious faith. From now on, after death, we will return to your divine country. We will become your shield and resist all harm for you. We will become your sword and slash all enemies for you. Great Lord Ian, may your divine country become a star in the sky. Under Catherine's lead, the half-blood beastmen began to earnestly learn her posture and prayed earnestly and devoutly. Pure faith power diffused from the half-blood beastmen and entered the idol created by Yang Feng. Yang Feng looked at the faith power condensed on the idol, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. I've finally taken the first step. Most of the people in the human race already had faith. In this world where gods constantly performed miracles, there were practically no non-believers among humans. Even among human slaves, many still had a god they believed in. If Yang Feng wanted to spread his faith among humans, it would be very difficult. The suffering half-blood beastmen were his best choice. After the prayer ceremony was completed, the dozens of half-blood beastmen present felt as if they had undergone a complete transformation. Their heart, spirit, and spirit were all different. Before this, these half-blood beastmen were hopeless existences that couldn't see the light. Now, however, they saw the light of hope. Dick's eyes blossomed with endless anger, and he asked, Catherine, can you contact the surrounding villages and towns and take them to the city you spoke of? Catherine smiled and said, Half-blood beastmen who are willing to believe in our Lord are our dearest compatriots and can go to that city. Dick's eyes flashed with worry, and he said, Since our Lord is so generous and great, I believe that all half-blood beastmen will believe in him. But the biggest problem now is the winter hunt. The wolf cavalrymen are just the vanguard of the winter hunt. According to convention, the large-scale winter hunt is about to begin. The winter hunt was when the beastmen of the Beastman Empire would sweep through the Kasama region from time to time during winter. They would plunder the food of half-blood beastmen and capture the beauties of half-blood beastmen for their own enjoyment or directly sell to human slave merchants in exchange for various supplies. The winter hunt wasn't just a matter of the Copper Wolf tribe, but the main force of the entire Beastman Empire. They would hunt in the Kasama region. In front of the main force of the Beastman Empire, all of the half-blood beastmen's resistance would be crushed into powder. Among the half-blood beastmen, there were also ox half-blood beastmen, tigermen half-blood beastmen, lionmen half-blood beastmen, and elephantmen half-blood beastmen. These half-blood beastmen were born with divine strength, and their battle prowess far exceeded that of ordinary humans. There were also half-blood beastmen who resisted in the Kasama region, but they lacked weapons, cultivation techniques, and various inheritances of knowledge. They simply couldn't resist the attack of the main force of the Beastman Empire. The half-blood beastmen who resisted were slaughtered by the hundreds, and then hundreds more were thrown into the Kasama area, leaving them to fend for themselves. They wouldn't let those half-blood beastmen consume the food of the Beastman Empire. The main force of the Beastman Empire was definitely the existence that all half-blood beastmen hated and feared the most during the winter hunt. When the half-blood beastmen heard this, their eyes revealed worry. Catherine said in a deep voice, I have a way. All eyes were focused on Catherine, filled with anticipation. Catherine looked around and said in a deep voice, Before the winter hunt officially starts, the only threat to us is the Copper Wolf tribe. I'll take people to assassinate the chieftain of the Copper Wolf tribe. As long as we assassinate him, the vanguard of the Copper Wolf tribe will collapse without a fight. In this way, we can gain 10 days of time. 10 days is enough for us to contact many tribes. Which brother is willing to go with me to assassinate the chieftain of the Copper Wolf tribe? I'm willing. Contrary to everyone's expectations, a person took the lead and said loudly. Gazes focused on that person, revealing looks of surprise. Yang Feng was also very surprised. Because that person was the dog-eared middle-aged man Kun, who had bitterly advised everyone not to kill the 8 wolf cavalrymen. Haha, I know what you're thinking. My wife and son died tragically at the hands of those beasts. Don't I hate those beasts? It was just that in the past, we didn't have the strength to resist. Now that a god is willing to shelter us, I, Kun, am willing to risk my life for the sake of the half-blood beastmen. If I'm lucky enough to survive in the future and arrive at the place where my lord promised my race to rest, then I'll dedicate everything I have to my lord. This is the promise of me, a dog-eared half-blood beastman. Kun tore his tattered clothes and forcefully grabbed at them. His chest was immediately dripping with blood, and he cried out hoarsely, "My blood is also hot." Chapter 225. Is this the power of hope? Yang Feng silently looked at the blood on Kun's chest. His rock-hard mind was slightly shaken. "I'm willing to go with you." After a moment of silence, none of the 56 half-blood beastmen in the room cowered. Regardless of gender or age, they all spoke silently. Catherine made a prompt decision. The number of people needed for the assassination should be few, not many. Caesar, Khan, Chuck, and I will be going for the assassination. Dick, organize the people and contact the surrounding villages and towns. We don't have much time, every minute is precious. Without any quarrel or hesitation, Dick nodded silently. At the border of the Beastman Empire and the Kasama region, there was a small city, the Frozen Rock City. The Frozen Rock City was the bridgehead of the Beastman Empire's winter hunt. This time, as the winter hunt's vanguard, the Copper Wolf tribe was stationed here. As night fell, darkness enveloped the land. Catherine took Yang Feng's group of 3 to the front of the Frozen Rock City. Kun looked at the brightly lit Frozen Rock City from afar, and his eyes flashed with worry. "Catherine, what do we do now? It looks like it's heavily guarded." Due to Yang Feng killing part of the vanguard, the defenses inside the Frozen Rock City became much tighter. At the entrance to the city stood 2 teams of fully armed Wolfman warriors. Above the Frozen Rock City, teams of werewolf warriors were constantly patrolling, ready to reinforce the warriors below at any time. The entrance to the city was covered in torches. Above the city wall, there was a thick torch at regular intervals, brightly illuminating the city. Catherine's gaze congealed slightly and she said, "Caesar, you speak." Yang Feng said with a light smile, "Everyone follow me. Let's kill our way to the headquarters, and then behead the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe." Chuck frowned and said coldly, "That's easy for you to say. We don't even know how many soldiers there are in the Frozen Rock City or where the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe is, so how can we kill them? Besides, how can the 4 of us kill our way in?" Even though he had acknowledged Yang Feng's identity as a divine emissary, Chuck was still very jealous of him. This was mainly because the beastmen were ignorant and did not know the importance of a divine envoy. If it was in the 4 great empires, no one would dare to be so rude to an oracle sent by a god. The ignorant are fearless. This was the principle. Kun also focused his gaze on Yang Feng, wanting to see what Yang Feng had to say. He didn't think that the 4 of them could break into the city and kill the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe. "This is a treasure given to me by God. A long sword that could cut through any weapon and a full-body armor that could block almost any weapon. And God is watching us. He will guide us to the location of the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe." Yang Feng smiled faintly and flipped his hand, and 2 copper boxes appeared in front of Chuck and Kun. On top of the 2 copper boxes, there was a magic sword forged from divine blood steel. Yang Feng said lightly, "Put your hands on the box, and you'll get the divine warrior armor bestowed upon you by God." Without hesitation, Kun put his hand on the groove on top of the copper box. Bronze-colored magic radiance flickered, and pieces of armor flew out of the copper box and landed on Kun's body, covering every vital part of his body. Only some of his joints were exposed. There were 16 energy grooves on the divine warrior armor, each of which was inlaid with a superior magic stone. An incomparably powerful life mana emanated from the divine warrior armor and entered Kun's body, stimulating his body's potential and causing him to burst forth with aura. Qi. This is the power of Qi. Kun was slightly taken aback, and then his eyes flashed with ecstasy and he praised, "Great Guardian, praise you." Upon seeing this, Chuck also put his hand on the copper box, put on the divine warrior armor, and was stimulated to give birth to Qi. The divine warrior armor looked like it had a lot of components, but in fact, it was extremely light. Each divine warrior armor weighed only 2.5 kilograms and was forged from divine blood steel. Because it was enchanted with lighten, brute strength, inspire courage, and several other spells, it wasn't heavy at all. On the contrary, the wearer would feel as light as a swallow and extremely nimble. These two divine warrior armors were the original versions of battle armor that Yang Feng had developed by combining warlock knowledge and Shizu technology. As long as the wearer had a strong enough body, they would possess formidable offensive and defensive power. On the battlefield, they would be just like a humanoid tank. Yang Feng waved his hand, and 2 gold boxes appeared in front of him and Catherine. Catherine reached out and pressed her hand on the groove of the golden chest. Countless golden armor plates flew out of the golden chest and surrounded her, forming a female warrior covered in golden armor. She wore a mask, and her facial features could not be seen clearly. "Follow me." Yang Feng took the lead and stealthily moved towards the section of the frozen rock city wall. Catherine's group of 3 followed behind Yang Feng. When they reached the edge of the city wall, Yang Feng took a deep breath, tapped his foot on the ground, flew up, and easily landed on top of the city wall. The frozen rock city wall was only 6 meters tall. It couldn't stop an expert like Yang Feng. Yang Feng shook his hand, and a rope extended from the top of the city wall. Catherine's group of 3 quickly reached out and grabbed the rope. Yang Feng shook the rope slightly and erupted with Sky Knight rank power in a flash, sending Catherine's group of 3 flying towards the top of the city wall. In midair, Catherine didn't panic. She operated her qi, twisted her tender body slightly, turned her feet to the ground, and stomped on the ground, stopping her forward momentum. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with admiration. He took a step forward and pressed his palms on the abdomen of Chuck and Kun. A gentle force gushed out of his palms and caught the 2 of them. During his time on the Feisua plane, Yang Feng could only rely on himself most of the time without the terrifying battle prowess of his mechanical legion. He forced out his potential. If Yang Feng had just left the Tyrannid subcontinent, it wouldn't have been an issue to slap Chuck and Kun into mincemeat. However, he definitely wouldn't have been able to use his strength so effortlessly. Originally, Yang Feng was just an ordinary warlock who had accumulated all kinds of rare resources and elixirs. But now, after his tempering on the Feisua plane, he could feel himself constantly transforming, becoming stronger, and grasping various knowledge more flexibly. When Chuck and Kun landed, they heaved a long sigh of relief. Yang Feng reached out with his hand, lifted Chuck and Kun, and jumped down from the top of the city wall. Catherine also jumped down from the top of the city wall. Once they entered the frozen rock city, the 4 people formed a battle formation. Yang Feng was at the forefront of the formation, Chuck and Kun protected his flanks, and Catherine was in the rear, bringing up the rear. Without hesitation, Yang Feng took the 3 people and plunged into the frozen rock city. Inside the frozen rock city, Yang Feng, as if aided by a god, avoided one squad of Beastman patrol warriors after another, leaving Chuck and Kun full of admiration. They truly believed that Yang Feng had the guidance of a god. There was a small castle in the center of the frozen rock city, which was the city master's mansion. Since the frozen rock city was the bridgehead for attacking the Kasama region, half-blood beastmen would from time to time find ways to attack the frozen rock city and assassinate its high-ranking officers. Therefore, the city master's mansion was transformed into a small castle. The small castle's city wall was 7 meters tall. The city wall was brightly lit, and teams of wolfmen warriors exuding an iron-blooded temperament were patrolling. The small castle was guarded by the trusted subordinates of the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe. They were valiant warriors who had gone through countless battles, and each of them possessed formidable battle prowess not weaker than human knights. "Follow me." Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a scorching glint. His figure shook, and he took the lead, rushing towards the entrance of the small castle like a humanoid tank. "Charge!" Catherine ordered. Kun and Chuck looked at each other, then gritted their teeth and followed behind Yang Feng, rushing towards the small castle. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Atop the city wall, a wolfman warrior saw Yang Feng dressed in a golden armor at a glance, and he faced upwards and issued a shrill howl. As expected of elites, the werewolf warriors on the castle quickly made their preparations. 20 archers of the Copper Wolf tribe immediately stepped out and shot at Yang Feng. The 20 arrows turned into a rain of arrows and shot towards Yang Feng. Ding, ding. Amid crisp sounds, the 3 arrows that hit Yang Feng's gold armor were ricocheted away. Braving the rain of arrows, Yang Feng rushed to in front of the gate of the castle. The magic sword forged from divine blood steel in his hand flickered with sword light, and he slashed the castle a dozen times in a row. Break! Yang Feng gave a furious roar and punched the gate of the castle. Boom! With a loud bang, the city gate was instantly torn into pieces, and countless fragments flew in all directions. The gate is broken. The gate is broken just like that. Kun and Chuck were dumbstruck, hardly daring to believe their eyes. Yes. If we follow him, we might really be able to kill the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe. Next, hot blood welled up in the hearts of Kun and Chuck, and they were filled with hope. Catherine's beautiful eyes flickered with an extraordinary splendor, and she looked at Yang Feng's back full of worship, as expected of Master Ian. Chapter 226. Breached. The gate was breached. Fuck. How could the gate be breached just like that? When the Wolfman warriors saw the gate breached, they were dumbstruck, not daring to believe their eyes. Yang Feng's group of 4 took the opportunity to rush into the castle and madly rush towards the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe. Block them! Block them! A guard leader roared loudly and rushed towards Yang Feng's group of 4 with 50 Wolfman warriors. Yang Feng rushed towards the guard leader and slashed at him with a resplendent sword ray. The guard leader bellowed, and Earth Knight rank chi erupted from him in a flash. The fine steel sword infused with chi flicked at Yang Feng's sword. Ding! Under the horrified gaze of the guard leader, the fine steel sword in his hand broke into 2. The sword ray slashed down and instantly sliced the guard leader in 2. After slaying the guard leader, sword rays flashed around Yang Feng, and the Wolfman warriors near him were sliced in 2 along with their armor. Kun and Chuck, who were responsible for guarding Yang Feng's flanks, although they didn't know martial arts, but relying on the sharp magic swords and the divine warrior armor with astonishing defensive strength, they withstood the attacks of the Wolfman warriors and killed the Wolfman warriors one after another. Catherine also madly brandished the ruler's sword and killed the Wolfman warriors one after another. Blood spattered all over her, yet she didn't waver. Amidst the frantic fighting, she gained a deeper understanding of the Lion King battle scripture that Yang Feng imparted to her. As if a sharp knife cutting through tofu, Yang Feng led the 3 people to easily cut through the 50 Wolfman elite warriors, and then rushed towards the room where the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe was located. Along the way, there were no more organized troops blocking in front of Yang Feng. After killing a dozen guards in a row, Yang Feng's group of 4 rushed into a room. Inside the room, on the carpet, there were 4 naked corpses of half-blood beastman girls. Each of the 4 half-blood beastman girls was very beautiful, and they were only 15 or 16 years old. In the room stood a middle-aged wolfman with a pair of wolf ears, a furry wolf tail on his butt, a medium build, a face as if carved by a knife, and a cold and cruel temperament. Standing in the middle of the room with a blood-stained scimitar in his hand, the middle-aged wolfman stared coldly at Yang Feng's group of 4. That wolfman race man did not panic in the face of danger and said very calmly, "The 4 of you, how dare you? Do you know who I am? I am Ahriman, the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe, a hereditary baron of the Orc Empire. If you dare to kill me, the Orc Empire will never stop hunting you down. Who sent you to assassinate me? I can pay you double the amount you paid. No, I'll pay you 3 times the amount and then go kill the person who sent you. Kill him, and I can promote you in the Orc Empire, make you aristocratic barons of the Orc Empire, and give you hereditary fiefs and great wealth." On the Feisua plane, aristocratic titles and hereditary fiefs were things that many people yearned to obtain. Many martial path powerhouses and formidable wizards would serve human empires for aristocratic titles and hereditary fiefs. Martial path powerhouses had tyrannical strength and didn't have to worry about food and clothing. However, their next generation might not be able to learn their martial arts. Aristocratic titles and hereditary fiefs were the foundation of a family's inheritance and wealth. Unfortunately, I only want your head. Yang Feng's gaze swept past the naked corpses of the half-blood beastman girls, and his gaze became extremely frigid. His figure shook, and he strangely appeared in front of Ahriman and slashed at him with his sword. A bunch of clowns, I just don't want to waste my strength. Since you're courting death, then I'll send you on your way. Ahriman snorted coldly. In a flash, frightening firmament night-rank chi erupted from him, and he took a step forward and slashed at Yang Feng with a tyrannical blade. In the Orc Empire, the law of the jungle prevailed. For Ahriman, who respected the strong, to be able to become the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe, he was extremely powerful. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to suppress the pack of wolf cubs in the tribe. Ding! The blade and sword collided, and the fine steel blade in Ahriman's hand broke into two. Yang Feng's magic sword slashed down, and Ahriman's head was sent flying. The moment Ahriman's head was sent flying, his eyes flickered with incredulity, as if he couldn't believe that he was insta-killed by a sword. Your martial path strength might be good, but unfortunately, your weapon is too poor. Yang Feng grabbed Ahriman's head, who died with everlasting regret, and said faintly. Extremely hot blood spurted out of Ahriman's chest. Before it came into contact with Yang Feng, it was bounced off by the life force field protecting him. In real combat, weapons and equipment were extremely important, and could even play a decisive role. Ahriman's martial path strength might be even stronger than Yang Feng's, but he was insta-killed by Yang Feng, because he didn't know that the magic sword forged from divine blood steel in Yang Feng's hand was actually so sharp. A powerful weapon could instantly increase a martial artist's battle prowess by several times. This was also the reason why Yang Feng's 5 magic swords could be auctioned at sky-high prices. Kun's eyes flowed with tears, and he sobbed uncontrollably. Formidable faith power diffused from him. We actually did it. We actually assassinated the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe. This is a miracle bestowed upon us by the gods. Praise you, mighty god Ian. Praise you. Yang Feng felt the faith power coming from Kun, and was slightly surprised. True believer. Not bad, I really couldn't tell that this Kun was a good seedling. Yang Feng took out a spear, inserted Ahriman's severed head on it, and strode outside. Ahriman is dead. The frozen rock city has been captured. Yang Feng had Kun carry Ahriman's severed head, and shouted when he saw people. When the Wolfman warriors saw Ahriman's severed head, their morale began to collapse, and they became polarized. Eyes bloodshot, some Wolfman warriors madly rushed at Yang Feng and company, before being killed by Yang Feng and Catherine. Even more werewolf soldiers broke down and fled the city lord's manor. Yang Feng and company killed their way to the city master's mansion's prison. Catherine took the lead. After killing a dozen-plus Wolfman warriors, she broke into the prison. I am Catherine, a divine chosen sent by the mighty god Ian to rescue us half-blood beastmen. I am a lionman half-blood beastman. I'm here to rescue you. Anyone who is willing to believe in my lord, the mighty god Ian, can be redeemed. Who is willing to believe in my lord, Ian? As soon as Catherine broke into the prison, the gold visor fell off, revealing her heroic and beautiful appearance as well as lionman half-blood beastman characteristics. Shrouded in a layer of sacred light, she shouted, I am willing to believe in the mighty god Ian, save me. I am also willing to believe in the mighty god Ian, save me. In the prison, there were hundreds of handsome young men and women who were captured by the Copper Wolf tribe. When the young men and women in the cages saw Catherine shrouded in a layer of sacred light, as if they had seen a god, the young men and women wept and pleaded. Yang Feng's group of 3 stepped forward, slashed open the cages with their swords, and liberated the hundreds of half-blood beastmen inside the cages. Catherine said solemnly, Pick up the weapons you can and follow behind us. You need to protect your own lives. The hundreds of half-blood beastman youngsters silently picked up the weapons of the slain prison guards, and then followed behind Catherine. Yang Feng said, "Let's go to the granary. Once we burn the granary, we can leave." Catherine nodded slightly, then turned to the half-blood beastman youngsters and said, "Follow behind us." The half-blood beastman youngsters silently followed behind Catherine. Under Yang Feng's lead, the group of people killed their way towards the granary of the frozen rock city. Along the way, the Wolfman warriors who stuck their heads out were chopped into pieces by Yang Feng. The half-blood beastman youngsters went up and picked up their weapons. "You really came. I guess that your next target would be the granary of the frozen rock city. You lowly half-blood beastman bastards. When you see Uncle Randy, why aren't you on your knees? Do you want to die?" Suddenly, a group of 200 wolf cavalrymen armed to the teeth rushed out of the granary. The arrogant and tall wolfman expert in the lead glared at the hundreds of half-blood beastman youngsters and bellowed. In a flash, frightening Sky Knight rank chi gushed out of him. Under the pressure of the Sky Knight rank expert, the half-blood beastman youngsters revealed looks of fear. Sky Knight rank experts had already stepped into the ranks of extraordinary life forms. There was an essential gap between them and ordinary life forms. Their imposing manner wasn't something that ordinary people could resist. "Randy, I have killed Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe. His head is here. If you surrender now, it's not too late. Otherwise, only death will await you." Yang Feng lifted Ahriman's head, shook it at the Copper Wolf tribe's cavalrymen, and shouted loudly, "Chief Ahriman's head! Is Chief Ahriman really dead?" When the wolf cavalrymen of the Copper Wolf tribe saw Ahriman's head, their hearts shook at once. Ahriman, who possessed the strength of a firmament knight, was the #1 expert of the Copper Wolf tribe. For such an expert to die tragically at Yang Feng's hands, Yang Feng's strength could well be imagined. Taking advantage of the Copper Wolf tribe's wolf cavalrymen's shock, Yang Feng blurred into motion and rushed towards them. "Go to hell." The Copper Wolf tribe's wolf cavalrymen were extremely ferocious. 2 wolf cavalrymen slashed at Yang Feng. Without dodging, Yang Feng rammed into them like a humanoid demonic beast. Ding! When the 2 fine steel blades slashed at Yang Feng's gold armor, they were ricocheted away. The perlicues of the 2 wolf cavalrymen trembled, and the 2 fine steel blades flew out of their hands. With flashes of sword rays and surging of chi, the 2 wolf cavalrymen were instantly shaken into countless pieces of flesh and blood that splashed about. Amid the mist of blood, Yang Feng appeared in front of Randy and slashed at him with his sword. Randy's complexion changed dramatically. Although he still had more than 100 subordinates around him, but at this moment, he was the only one facing Yang Feng's tyrannical sword strike. Randy mustered his chi, bellowed, and raised his sword at Yang Feng's sword. As long as he could block this sword strike, the wolf cavalrymen around him could swarm Yang Feng and cut him into pieces. Ding! Under Randy's horrified gaze, his sword was cut in 2 as if tofu. The sword ray slid along his neck, and his head flew high into the air. A large amount of blood gushed out of his headless corpse and scattered in all directions. In the midst of the wolf cavalrymen, Yang Feng erupted with firmament knight rank chi and roared into the sky. "I killed Randy. Which one of you wants to die?" Dumbfounded, the wolf cavalrymen couldn't believe their eyes. At the same time, intimidated by Yang Feng's imposing manner, they didn't act rashly for a moment. Yang Feng's blood boiled and divine energy of massacre surged. Sword rays flashed in his hand, and sword rays extended into the surroundings. In the wake of the sword rays, wolf cavalrymen were torn apart and turned into countless pieces. Under Yang Feng's frenzied slaughter, the wolf cavalrymen began to divide. Some wolf cavalrymen angrily rushed at Yang Feng, wanting to avenge Randy. Even more wolf cavalrymen lost their courage and dispersed. After killing dozens of wolf cavalrymen in a row, there were no more wolf cavalrymen left in front of the granary. Only Yang Feng remained, standing proudly in the midst of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. "So strong! So strong! Sir Caesar is so strong! Can we half-blood beastmen also give birth to such an expert?" This scene was imprinted in the eyes of the half-blood beastman youngsters, and their hearts were filled with shock. Kun gazed at Yang Feng's back, his heart surged, and his eyes flashed with fanaticism. Divine Emissary Caesar is really strong. Only such an expert can be called a divine emissary. There's finally hope for us half-blood beastmen. Chapter 227. Yang Feng treaded on the blood-stained road and arrived in front of the frozen rock city's granary. With the flash of a sword ray, the gate of the granary made of steel collapsed into countless pieces, revealing large tracts of grain inside. When the half-blood beastman youngsters saw the large tracts of grain inside the granary, their eyes practically glowed green, and they swallowed their saliva several times. The living environment in the Kasama region was extremely harsh. The half-blood beastman youngsters basically only had some sour berries, wild vegetables, and some edible roots to barely fill their stomachs. It was the first time they had seen so much grain. Kun said with some reluctance, somewhat respectful, "Sir Caesar, can't we find a way to transport this grain back?" Catherine's big, expressive eyes also stared straight at Yang Feng. "Yes. Take it back." The half-blood beastman youngsters also spoke one after another. Yang Feng said faintly, "No, we don't have that much time. Let me tell you another piece of bad news. According to the oracle of the mighty god Ian, the Bloody Lion monarch Lawrence is already on his way here with 20,000 elites of the Bloody Lion slave hunting group." Kun's complexion changed greatly, his eyes flashed with fear, and he said in a trembling voice, "Lawrence? It's that fiend." Catherine's beautiful eyes were filled with endless anger. At the same time, fear shrouded the abyss of her beautiful eyes. "Lawrence, that bastard. He's here. Lawrence. That fiend is here. It's actually that fiend." The faces of the half-blood beastman youngsters were drained of blood, their bodies trembled, and their eyes were filled with fear. The Blood Lion monarch Lawrence was the uncle of the current emperor of the Beastman Empire, and he was conferred the title of Grand Prince. He was extremely cruel and had presided over winter hunts against half-blood beastmen several times. Others presided over winter hunts and would release water to raise fish, so they wouldn't kill people indiscriminately in the Kasama region. As for the Blood Lion monarch Lawrence, he was extremely cruel and vicious. At that time, he slaughtered all the resistance forces in the Kasama district, including those who surrendered, and massacred the villages where the half-blood beastman resistance forces had been active. Even the beastman villages that did not participate in the rebellion were massacred indiscriminately, making the people of the Kasama district tremble in fear and hate them endlessly. Yang Feng said solemnly, "Only by burning the food can we stop their advance. Otherwise, they will only continue to hunt us down for food." Kathleen nodded silently. Yang Feng took out an oil can, poured kerosene on the grain in the granary, lit a torch, and threw it into the granary. The flames immediately rose up in the granary, and the tongue of fire quickly spread across the granary. "The granary is on fire. It's over. What should we do? Lord Ahriman seems to have been killed. What should we do now?" Within the frozen rock city, the werewolf troops fell into chaos. After Ahriman was killed, there was no one else in the Copper Wolf tribe who could convince the masses. When some ambitious experts of the Copper Wolf tribe saw the flames rising in the granary, they knew that they couldn't continue. They immediately led their troops to escape from the frozen rock city and fled towards the Copper Wolf tribe. Whoever could escape to the Copper Wolf tribe first would gain a huge advantage. Yang Feng took the hundreds of half-blood beastman youngsters to the armory and opened the door. After everyone picked up a few weapons, they swaggered out of the frozen rock city. In front of the nameless village where Catherine lived. Standing at the gate of the village, Dick looked in the direction of the frozen rock city from time to time, his eyes filled with anxiety. Was I too impulsive? For people want to go to the frozen rock city to assassinate the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe. This is simply an impossible miracle. Just the position of the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe is hard to determine. Dick gazed into the distance, the wrinkles on his eyebrows seemed to have increased. He smiled bitterly and sighed, "There's nothing we can do about it. Even if it's a life-saving straw, we have to firmly grasp it. We have no way out. A middle-aged man with a pair of cat ears and an aged face slowly walked over and said with a bitter smile, "Yes, Dick, we have no way out. All we can do now is pray to the great god Ian to bless them." 4 people going to assassinate the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe in the heavily defended Frozen Rock City sounded like a fairy tale. After the half-blood beastmen calmed down from their excitement, it was normal for them to be worried. Dick asked, "Burrow, how is it? How did the villages react?" Burrow smiled bitterly and said, "They basically agreed to go with us. However, there's a precondition. If Sir Caesar can assassinate the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe, then they'll go with us. If not, then they'll just do what they did in the past, try to find a place to hide, resign themselves to fate, and pray that they can escape the winter hunt." The half-blood beastmen's resistance to the winter hunt was just to find a place to hide, resign themselves to fate, and try to avoid the winter hunt. After all, the time for the winter hunt organized by the Beastman Empire was limited. After catching a certain number of beastmen, they would withdraw from this place. It was also a huge cost to feed the 10,000 to 20,000 elite troops. It was impossible for the Beastman Empire's army to stay in such a barren area like the Kasama district for a long time. Dick suddenly asked, "Why did Sir Caesar assassinate the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe instead of Catherine?" Burrow said flatly, "We watched Catherine grow up. Don't we know how strong she is? Even if she received the guidance of the gods, it's absolutely impossible for her to have the strength to assassinate the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe." Dick was silent for a moment, then gave a long sigh and nodded slightly. "That's... Someone is approaching our village." Burrow's expression suddenly tightened. He stared into the distance and his eyes flashed with a sharp glint as he said, "I'll go back to the village and have everyone hide." "No. No need. It's Sir Caesar, they're back alive. My son Chuck is alive. Thank God. He's finally alive." Dick's eyes widened, his body trembled, and his speech became somewhat incoherent. Tears of excitement flowed down from his eyes. "Ha! They're back alive. Ha! I'll go back and tell everyone the good news. I'll go back and tell everyone the good news." Burrow was also incoherent with excitement. As if he had turned into a young man, he rushed into the village. "Sir Caesar is back. Sir Caesar and them are back alive. Everyone come out. Sir Caesar and them are back alive." As soon as Burrow rushed into the village, he shouted loudly, "What? Sir Caesar and them are back alive? They're back alive?" In other words, they assassinated the chief of the Copper Wolf tribe? More than 100 half-blood beastmen poured out of the village, many of which were representatives of other villages. These days they felt like a year in the village. Now that they heard the news of Yang Feng's party, they were extremely excited and rushed out of the village. When the half-blood beastmen rushed to the entrance of the village, they saw Yang Feng and Catherine walking side by side, followed by Kun and Chuck, and followed by hundreds of armed half-blood beastman youngsters. Kun raised the spear with Ahriman's severed head high and shouted, "We're back! Sir Caesar has killed Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe. This is his severed head. Long live the great god Ian. Long live the great Sir Caesar." They did it. They actually did it. They killed him. They actually killed Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe. This is a miracle. Only with the guidance of a god can such a miracle be realized. There's finally hope for us half-blood beastmen. When the half-blood beastmen saw the spear with Ahriman's severed head, tears of excitement immediately streamed down their cheeks. Long live the great god Ian. Long live the great Sir Caesar. Long live the great god Ian. Long live the great Sir Caesar. Bursts of cheers came from the crowd. Yang Feng could clearly perceive traces of faith power diffusing from the half-blood beastmen, and then being absorbed and condensed by the idols he created. Dick slowly walked up to Yang Feng, prostrated himself on the ground, tears streaming down his face, yet said solemnly, "Great divine emissary Sir Caesar, thank you very much for bringing hope to us half-blood beastmen." Countless tears flowed down from the eyes of the half-blood beastmen. The more than 100 half-blood beastmen came up to Yang Feng, prostrated themselves on the ground, and expressed their most sincere gratitude with tears streaming down their cheeks. For countless years, the suffering race of half-blood beastmen had never seen hope. Even when the half-blood beastman resistance army appeared, they were easily suppressed by the beastman empire and human slave hunters. Now, a god dispatched a divine emissary. Almost miraculously, a trifling 4 people assassinated Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe, who was in the Frozen Rock City and was guarded by several thousand Wolfman warriors. This finally gave the half-blood beastmen a glimmer of hope. When the half-blood beastman youngsters saw this, tears streamed down their cheeks, and they prostrated themselves on the ground in front of Yang Feng. Chuck hesitated for a moment, then finally sighed slightly and prostrated himself on the ground in front of Yang Feng, no longer having any thoughts of competing with Yang Feng. In the battle to assassinate Ahriman, he had already witnessed Yang Feng's mystical abilities and formidable strength. Such a person was not someone he could compare to. He was also a half-blood beastman, and he longed for the freedom and dignity of half-blood beastmen. Chapter 228. As long as you are willing to piously believe in the great god Ian, then the great god Ian will bless you just like this. Yang Feng pointed with his finger and cast the level 1 spell Divine Illumination. A heartwarming sacred light suddenly appeared and enveloped everyone present, warming them up slightly. Yang Feng then flicked his finger, and a large amount of super recovery elixirs made from a combination of alchemy and Shizu technology turned into a fine mist that mixed with the sacred light. Under the effect of the super recovery elixirs, the half-blood beastmen only felt a burst of warmth, and then became more relaxed. Many people were pleasantly surprised to find that many of their internal injuries had disappeared. Healing divine spells were a must-have divine spells for churches to preach. Only with healing theurgy could churches develop rapidly and gain more believers. As Yang Feng wasn't a god, he could only simulate the effects of healing divine spells through the combination of alchemy and Shizu technology. Many half-blood beastmen were shedding tears of happiness under the holy light. This was the first time they had been healed by a divine spell and the first time they felt the power of a god. Now, I will teach you the first tome of the Radiant Battle text that the god Ian wanted me to teach you. Shrouded in sacred light, Yang Feng began to explain the first tome of the Radiant Battle text to the half-blood beastmen. Originally, Yang Feng intended to have Catherine teach him this martial art. But now that the opportunity was right, he naturally wouldn't let it slip by. The scene was silent. Apart from Yang Feng's voice, there was no other sound. Every half-blood beastman eagerly listened to Yang Feng's every word, full of piety. All half-blood beastmen knew how precious martial art knowledge was. Any martial art was a secret of the major races and the foundation of their foothold. No one would teach martial arts to half-blood beastmen. The error-ridden swordsmanship that Catherine practiced was something that a half-blood beastman's slave paid a great price to secretly learn. Half-blood beastmen, who had suffered countless hardships, had a thirst for knowledge that far surpassed that of other races. Yang Feng looked around, and his gaze fell on Kun. Okay, I'll stop here for today. Any half-blood beastman who is willing to believe in the great god Ian can practice this Radiant Battle text. Kungen, get up. Kun got up and said respectfully towards Yang Feng, "Yes, Caesar Darren." Yang Feng handed Kun a knowledge crystal with the Radiant Battle text recorded on it. This is a knowledge crystal. It contains the next few levels of the Radiant Battle text. Crush it. Kun crushed the crystal, and the knowledge regarding the Radiant Battle Grimoire entered his mind. After Kun opened his eyes, he became even more respectful and said, "Thank you, Sir Oracle, for teaching me this martial technique." Yang Feng said, "From now on, you and Catherine will master the complete Radiant Battle text cultivation method. As long as one's strength reaches a certain level and is willing to worship my lord, you can teach them the continuation of this martial skill." Kun's eyes flashed with unswerving determination as he said respectfully, "Yes, Sir Oracle." Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of graveness, and he said solemnly, "Okay, get up. Right now, the most important thing was to immediately contact all the half-blood beastmen to carry out the Great Migration. The Great Guardian has issued a divine decree. The Bloody Lion Monarch Lawrence is already rushing over with 20,000 elite troops of the Bloody Lion Slave Hunting Group. The Bloody Lion Monarch Lawrence. It's that fiend. Fuck. Go inform everyone, the fiend is here again. When they heard the name of the Bloody Lion Monarch, the complexions of the half-blood beastmen changed, their bodies trembled, and their eyes flashed with fear and anger. Under Dick's arrangements, the half-blood beastmen from the nearby villages quickly returned to their villages and began to mobilize the half-blood beastmen in the villages. The story of Yang Feng's embodiment of Caesar leading 3 people into the frozen rock city and then assassinating Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe quickly spread in the Kasama district along with the half-blood beastmen from the villages and the half-blood beastman youngsters he rescued. As if a plague, a large number of half-blood beastmen rushed over from all directions, gathered into a torrent, and dragged their children towards the bloody wasteland. Before long, more than 100,000 half-blood beastmen emerged from the corners of the Kasama region, joined the huge torrent, and headed towards the Red Earth wasteland under Yang Feng's lead. A few days later, Dick found Yang Feng and said with a worried expression, "Sir Caesar, we're almost out of food and water. What do we do?" Some panic has spread among the crowd. Without new food and water, I'm afraid that the team won't be able to sustain itself. The most frightening thing about the Red Earth wasteland was that there was no food and water. Although the Kasama region was barren, but there were still some berries and water. In the Red Earth wasteland, shrubs were very scarce. As for water, it was even more scarce. With a confident look on his face, Yang Feng got up and said faintly, "I see, let's go. We want food. We want water. Give us some food. I want to drink water." In the huge half-blood beastmen migration team, many half-blood beastmen squeezed in front of Dick's army of half-blood beastman men and pleaded. Due to the haste, many half-blood beastmen only brought some food and water. After a few days, they couldn't hold on any longer. The half-blood beastman warriors could only barely stop the half-blood beastmen from rushing over. Otherwise, it would lead to a huge riot. Sir Caesar is here. The divine emissary Sir Caesar is here. All of a sudden, exclamations came from the side. The half-blood beastmen's gazes focused on Yang Feng. The noisy half-blood beastmen quieted down at once and focused their longing gazes on Yang Feng. Yang Feng's embodiment of Caesar broke into the frozen rock city and killed Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe amidst the heavy defenses. After being spread by word of mouth, Yang Feng's embodiment of Caesar broke into the frozen rock city, insta-killed Chief Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe, and killed half of the people in the frozen rock city with his breath. Due to such rumors, the half-blood beastmen were both respectful and fearful of Yang Feng. "Sir Divine Emissary, we didn't cause trouble, nor do we want to cause trouble. However, my child hasn't drunk water for 2 days. I just want her to drink some water. I beg of you, be merciful. If there is any punishment, bestow it on me. Let my child go and don't drive us away." A half-blood beastman with many wrinkles on his face knelt in front of Yang Feng and pleaded bitterly. The half-blood beastman girl, who was about 13 or 14 years old and could be vaguely seen to be a beauty but whose lips were somewhat cracked due to the drought. The half-blood beastman girl knelt in front of Yang Feng and pleaded bitterly. Now that the half-blood beastmen were in the Red Earth wasteland, there was no way out. Once they were driven away from the main force, only death would await them. "Sir Divine Emissary, we were wrong, don't drive us away. Sir Divine Emissary, we were wrong. Spare us this time." The half-blood beastmen knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Yang Feng, imploring. "Silence." Yang Feng frowned slightly, then erupted with a frightening firmament night rank aura in a flash and barked, suppressing the voices of the half-blood beastmen. "You weren't wrong. I promised you that as long as you believed in my lord would give you preserved fruit, food, and clean water. If I didn't do it, then I would be the one at fault. I'm very sorry, I didn't realize that you were already in such a predicament. I'm sorry." As a divine emissary, I failed in my duty. Yang Feng bowed slightly, saluted the half-blood beastmen, and apologized. Under the effect of the level 2 warlock rank secret method, the more than 100,000 half-blood beastmen heard Yang Feng's voice. Now, please come with me. The mighty god Ian has responded to my plea and agreed to show us his power so that we no longer lack food and clean water. Shrouded in sacred light, Yang Feng treaded on air, deviated slightly from the main road, and headed southwest. The half-blood beastmen followed behind Yang Feng and headed southwest. After walking for about 1 kilometer, Yang Feng pointed at the ground with the exquisite and luxurious scepter in his hand and said solemnly, "The mighty god Ian said that a water source will appear here to quench the thirst of my believers." Yang Feng's words had just fallen, when a large amount of red dust suddenly rose from the boundless red earth, revealing a huge pond full of water. Seeing this scene, the half-blood beastmen were dumbstruck, unable to believe their eyes. Apart from the Rhine River, there was practically no other water source in the red earth wasteland. Yet now, with a few words from Yang Feng, a huge pond appeared in front of the half-blood beastmen, which was simply a miracle. Yang Feng pointed at the surroundings of the pond with the exquisite and luxurious scepter in his hand and said solemnly, "The mighty god Ian said that a treasure tree will appear here to quench the hunger of my believers." Breadfruit trees grew out of the earth around the pond, matured quickly, and turned into trees full of breadfruits. The dozen or so breadfruits suddenly split open, releasing a fragrance unique to breadfruits that filled the area. Long live the mighty and benevolent god Ian. Shocked by this scene, the half-blood beastmen prostrated themselves on the ground and said in unison. Chapter 229. This is the water and food bestowed upon you by the mighty god Ian. Before enjoying the water and food, let us pray. Standing in the void, Yang Feng was shrouded in a sacred radiance. His words became enigmatic, full of mystery and holiness because of the miracle he just displayed. After seeing the miracle displayed by Yang Feng, the confusion in the hearts of the half-blood beastmen disappeared, and they were filled with hope for the future. They knelt on the ground, clasped their hands in front of their chests, closed their eyes, and began to recite prayers towards the idols. Mighty Lord Ian, extremely rich faith power diffused from the half-blood beastmen and entered the idols. Yang Feng looked at the faith force, and the corners of his mouth rose into a smile. So many true believers. Sure enough, miracles are the fastest way to attract believers. These miracles were naturally small tricks that Yang Feng had prepared beforehand. The pond that appeared out of thin air was a result of Yang Feng transporting the pond's water here, and then covering it with a membrane and a layer of nano-robots resembling red clay. As for the breadfruit trees, they were the breadfruit tree seeds that Yang Feng had treated with spells at the cost of thousands of magic stones. The breadfruit trees could only grow for a day before they withered. However, paying such a huge price in exchange for more than thousands of true believers, Yang Feng still felt that he had made a huge profit. Every once in a while, the gods of the Feisua plane would display some miracles to show their existence in order to expand their influence and gain more faith power. Yang Feng frowned slightly, and his eyes flashed with worry. Unfortunately, the bloody lion monarch Lawrence isn't a simple character. He came so fast. The Frozen Rock City. The Frozen Rock City, which was more than half burned by Yang Feng, had changed greatly. There were huge barracks and tents everywhere. Above the tents, there was a huge banner with a bloody lion embroidered on it. The Bloody Lion Monarch's knights were the elite army commanded by the Bloody Lion Monarch Lawrence. Every single one of the 20,000 Lion King cavalrymen was a member of the Lion tribe. Every single one of them was an expert who had been through hundreds of battles and cultivated Do Qi. The Bloody Lion King Knights were the most powerful elite army in the Orc Empire. In addition to the Bloody Lion King Knights, there were also dozens of troops stationed in the barracks. Each troop had about 300 to 2,000 people. Although the Orc Empire was called an empire, it was actually heavily influenced by the tribal system. The Lion tribe and the Tiger tribe were the two most powerful tribes in the Orc Empire. They could only command those tribes to send troops to fight in all kinds of battles, but they could not truly control the armies of the major tribes. Although the Orc Empire was only one empire, there were also countless internal constraints, which was why it could not obtain more territory. The gods hiding behind the Orc tribes were also unwilling to let the Lion and Tiger tribes gain complete control. If that happened, the number of their believers would plummet, and it wouldn't do them any good. In the center of the frozen rock city, inside a huge tent. Who can tell me? Who could sneak into the frozen rock city and openly kill Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe? A handsome middle-aged man with a head full of golden hair, a pair of lion ears, and a lion tail wrapped around his waist said coldly. He was the Blood Lion King Lawrence, who had a burly figure and a handsome appearance. He glanced at the people below and said coldly. On both sides of the tent stood the generals of the Bloody Lion Monarch as well as the Beastman generals dispatched by the major tribes. The generals were as quiet as cicadas in winter and didn't say a word. Ahriman of the Copper Wolf tribe was assassinated in the heavily guarded frozen rock city. This matter had become a laughingstock in the Orc Empire. At the same time, it also hurt the nerves of the Orc Empire, which was why Lawrence rushed here so quickly. The Beastman generals knew that Lawrence must be furious at this moment, so they didn't dare to speak for fear of angering the Demon King. An ominous glint flashed in the eyes of the Bloody Lion Monarch Lawrence, and he said coldly, Ahriman, that trash, it doesn't matter if he died. But after he died, the provisions of the frozen rock city were burned by those damn rebels. It's simply a heinous crime. Pass down my order, have the Copper Wolf tribe hand over all of Ahriman's relatives and execute them. Your Highness. An expressionless Bloody Lion Knight responded coldly and then quickly retreated. The many generals of the Orc Empire below immediately shuddered, and they became even more fearful of Lawrence. The depths of their eyes showed a trace of sympathy for the death of a rabbit. After an empire's aristocrat died in battle, his relatives couldn't be protected. Many of the Beastman Empire's generals were full of dissatisfaction with Lawrence. But Lawrence was the Empire's Grand Prince, cruel and bloodthirsty. He had a high status in the Beastman Empire, so naturally, no one dared to rashly offend him. Lawrence coldly swept a fat foxman beastman with a glance and said coldly, Zaku, what's the current situation of the provisions? Zaku replied with some trepidation, Your Highness, the provisions we currently have are only enough for us for 5 days. The subsequent provisions are being transported from the Empire. In about 10 days or so, all the provisions will be in place. The effects of Yangfeng's fire, which burned the provisions the vanguard of the frozen rock city had prepared for the slave hunters' army, finally showed. Lawrence said with a cold smile, 10 days. I can't even wait a day. Pass down my order, the Silver Lion tribe will guard the frozen rock city. The rest of the tribes will follow me into the Red Earth wasteland to hunt those half-blood beastman beasts. Zaku's complexion changed greatly, and he hurriedly advised, Your Highness, you mustn't. The half-blood beastmen have been in the Red Earth wasteland for several days now. We don't have enough provisions. Even if we catch up and defeat them, we won't have any provisions to return. A Wolfman general frowned slightly and stepped forward to advise, Your Highness, I think what Zaku said makes sense. If we pursue them now, it will be considered a victory. We won't have any provisions to return. Besides, we still have to support the more than 100,000 half-blood beastman slaves. Our current provisions are just a drop in the bucket. Besides, there's also the issue of water. The Red Earth wasteland is arid and lacks water. It's too dangerous to rashly go there without preparations. Lawrence's eyes flashed coldly, and he said frigidly, Do you want to disobey a military order? Didn't you hear that this is my order? The Wolfman general lowered his head and said slowly, This subordinate wouldn't dare. However, it's too dangerous to rashly break into the Red Earth wasteland. If we're not careful, our main forces will be wiped out in the Red Earth wasteland. Your Highness, please reconsider. Lawrence's eyelids didn't twitch, and he said coldly, Those who disobey orders will be executed. Kill him. A lion man guard standing next to Lawrence instantly erupted with frightening chi comparable to a sky knight. He took a step forward and slashed at the Wolfman general like a meteor. A blade ray flashed. Before the Wolfman general could react, his head, which was full of astonishment, flew high into the air, and a large amount of blood sprayed out of his chest and splashed throughout the camp. When the generals of the Beastman Empire saw this, their eyes flashed with grief and indignation, but they lowered their heads. In front of the Empire's Grand Prince, Lawrence, even if they wanted to resist, they were powerless. Lawrence's eyes flashed with a cruel glint, and he sneered, "Listen up, with the strength of our army, we can stop those half-blood Beastman hybrids before they enter the depths of the Red Earth wasteland. As for provisions and water, you don't have to worry. Since those half-blood Beastman hybrids can enter the depths of the Red Earth wasteland, they must have water and food. Even without water and food, we can drink their blood and eat their flesh. Then, we'll capture those hybrids that dared to provoke the Beastman Empire. Let them know that they were born to be our slaves." When the generals of the Beastman Empire heard that, they felt a chill in their hearts. Although Lawrence's words were very reasonable, but the generals of the Beastman Empire, who considered themselves civilized people, were quite resistant to eating intelligent life forms like half-blood beastmen. But being in the Beastman Empire, they had no choice. Lawrence said coldly, "Do you understand?" The generals of the Beastman Empire responded in unison, "Understood." Lawrence waved his hand and said, "Understood, go execute the order." The generals of the Beastman Empire left and began to assemble their orders. "By the way, my good nephew, Garrix, do you have anything else to add?" After seeing the generals of the Beastman Empire leave, Lawrence looked at the blonde, blue-eyed, handsome, and imposing young man beside him with a smile that wasn't a smile and provoked. Garrix said with a smile, "My dear uncle, you are the commander of this army. I have no objections." Lawrence said with a smile, "The Frozen Rock City is our path of retreat. Guarding the Frozen Rock City is also a great achievement. Don't worry, I'll leave a few little beauties for you from the half-blood Beastman slaves we catch." Garrix was the commander of the Silver Lion tribe. Lawrence deliberately left the Silver Lion tribe in the Frozen Rock City in order to prevent Garrix from making a great achievement. The Beastman Empire valued military merit the most. If Garrix didn't have enough military merit, he wouldn't be able to convince the masses. The reason why Lawrence wanted to personally lead the main force to pursue the half-blood Beastmen was to obtain enough military merit and improve his reputation in the Beastman Empire. No generals of the Beastman Empire believed that they couldn't defeat the half-blood Beastmen, who had no knowledge, no military force, and no equipment. Pursuing the half-blood Beastmen was a feast for dividing wealth and military merit, while guarding the Frozen Rock City was a thankless task. This was the consensus of the generals of the Beastman Empire. Garrix had a smile on his face as if he didn't notice Lawrence's hidden malice. "Thank you for your good intentions," Lawrence said with a satisfied smile. "Garrix, you're getting more and more sensible." Garrix said, "Dear uncle, I still remember that I have something to do. I'll take my leave first." Lawrence didn't care at all. "Then you can leave first." Garrix got up and slowly walked out of the tent. Lawrence stared at his back and sneered, "If you want to share my merit, wait another 20 years. Dear Uncle Lawrence, these half-blood beastmen aren't as simple as you think." After Garrix walked out of the tent, the bright smile on his face faded, and a chill flashed in the abyss of his eyes. You might get a surprise in this hasty pursuit. However, half-blood beastmen are really too weak. It's still too difficult to resist his bloody lion knights. After pondering for a while, Garrix suddenly sighed deeply, looked in the direction of the Red Earth wasteland, and said inwardly, "Caesar, I hope you can give me a surprise. Don't get killed by my uncle so quickly." All the warriors in Lawrence's Bloody Lion Knights were knight-rank powerhouses and above. Great Knights were only small leaders. There were also a lot of Earth Knights and Sky Knights, 8 Firmament Knights, and even 2 Star Knights, level 3 warlocks. The Bloody Lion Knights were simply too powerful. No matter how Lawrence tried to go against the flow, they wouldn't be able to escape. No matter how Lawrence acted, the Bloody Lion Knights could crush everything and suppress any resistance. Under Lawrence's order, 20,000 bloody lion knights and 20,000 plus high-ranking officers of the Beastman Empire from various tribes, a total of 40,000 troops, carrying countless provisions and supplies, advanced towards the Red Earth wasteland in a stretch of more than 10 kilometers. As the vanguard, 2,000 elite bloody knights riding extraordinary life-form demonic horned lions separated from the main force and chased towards the depths of the Red Earth wasteland. Although Lawrence was cruel, but he was also very proficient in the art of war. The 2,000 elite bloody knights riding demonic horned lions were enough to easily defeat the more than 100,000 half-blood beastmen. With his main force following behind, he could easily capture the more than 100,000 half-blood beastmen. In the Red Earth wasteland, Yang Feng's embodiment of Caesar suddenly frowned slightly and said with a cold smile, 2,000 bloody lion knights as the vanguard? Without me, these half-blood beastmen really wouldn't be able to resist. However, it's different now. Yang Feng thought for a while, and then had Catherine summoned. Catherine raised her eyebrows and asked, Sir Caesar, what's the matter? The pressure of the more than 100,000 half-blood beastmen on Catherine and the upper echelon of the half-blood beastmen allowed them to grow rapidly. Catherine was well aware that Yang Feng wouldn't look for her for no reason at this juncture. Yang Feng said solemnly, that mad dog Lawrence is caught up. I'm going to deal with him, so I'll leave this place to you. Chapter 230. Lawrence is here. Catherine's delicate body trembled slightly, and then her beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of determination and confidence, saying, Sir Caesar, don't worry, leave this to me. Catherine was like a beautiful raw stone that had become resplendent after being polished by the pressure of reality. She was fully capable of becoming the leader of the more than 100,000 half-blood beastmen. Yang Feng nodded slightly, then his figure shook and he disappeared. After leaving the half-blood beastmen army for a few kilometers, Yang Feng restored Ian's appearance, jumped lightly onto the magic carpet, and flew towards the 2,000 bloody lion knights. Should I kill them all? Yang Feng pondered seriously as he sat on the magic carpet. With the various extraordinary plant seeds, the Moffin demonic polar bear, and other level 4 extraordinary life form rank mechanical battle beasts at his disposal, he could wipe out the 2,000 bloody lion knights. After contemplating repeatedly, the corners of Yang Feng's mouth suddenly rose slightly. No. I've got a good idea. In the Red Earth wasteland, 2 streaks of red soil rose and extended from afar. 2,000 elite bloody lion knights riding extraordinary life form demonic horned lions chased after the half-blood beastmen. Extraordinary life form demonic horned lions were a kind of extraordinary life form. They had a single horn, were a size larger than ordinary lions, and had no fur. Instead, they were covered in black scales. They were ferocious and belligerent extraordinary life forms with fast bursts of speed and could run long distances. Demonic horned lions were extraordinary life forms cultivated by the lion god Arcith when he was still a demigod. He sought out many gods, learned countless knowledge, and then cultivated them. Once a demonic horned lion reached adulthood, it would possess frightening battle prowess comparable to that of a great knight. Naturally, demonic horned lions were far inferior to the many extraordinary life forms cultivated by the Hellions in the Tyrannid subcontinent. However, on the Feisua plain, they were definitely the most tyrannical ground mounts. Many human cavalrymen would be timid when they saw the ferocious demonic horned lions. Before they could display 50% to 60% of their strength, they would be killed by the Lionman cavalrymen riding the demonic horned lions. 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen could charge at 10,000 human cavalrymen, and they had full confidence in defeating them. If the human empires didn't have many wizards and all kinds of weapons, they wouldn't be able to fight the Beastman Empire. The Elven Empire was number 1 in jungle warfare, the Beastman Empire was number 1 in field warfare, and the human race was number 1 in siege warfare. This was a fact that was publicly acknowledged by the entire continent without any powerhouses above the demigod level participating in the battle. Suddenly, a hurricane rose from the Red Earth wasteland and swept towards the demonic horned lions. Countless grains of sand and stones rolled. At the same time, a thick fog suddenly appeared and enveloped the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen. In the fog, one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. The two commanders of the demonic horned lion cavalry were shocked and shouted, "Charge! Hurry up and rush out!" The 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen sped up again and charged forward. Every now and then, a 10-meter tall boulder will appear in front of the demonic horned lion cavalrymen. When the demonic horned lion cavalrymen galloping at full speed hit the boulder, they will bleed and scream miserably. "Stop! Stop the charge!" The two commanders of the demonic horned lion cavalrymen immediately shouted. The demonic horned lion cavalrymen stopped their charge and looked at the boulder blocking in front of them in shock and anger. The commander of the demonic horned lion cavalry said in shock and anger, "Damn it, this is the power of wizards. Damn magicians." In the Red Earth wasteland, such a strange mist had never been heard of. Obviously, only magic power could cause such a strange change. "There's a path here, follow me." The eyes of the commander of the demonic horned lion cavalry suddenly lit up. He vaguely saw a path leading to the outside world, and he said with a smile of excitement. The 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen followed behind the commander and strode towards the path. No one noticed that the eyes of the commander flickered with a trace of absent-mindedness. A mist and a life form dominate trapped the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen. "I'm so strong that I'm afraid of myself." Above the fog, Yang Feng looked at the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen circling in the magic fog, and the corners of his mouth rose into a smile. "However, the consumption is relatively large. For every day that I trap them, I have to consume 100 inferior magic stones." Yang Feng looked at the level 1 secret treasure mist disk placed on a boulder, smiled slightly and mused. The mist disk could continuously release mist, but it also consumed a lot of energy. For every day that it was released, it would consume the power of 100 inferior magic stones. However, as long as he could trap the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen and prevent them from pursuing the half-blood beastmen, Yang Feng's goal would be achieved. Otherwise, with their speed, they would soon catch up with the half-blood beastmen and unleash a massacre. A day later, the mist shrouding the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen slowly dissipated. After the mist dissipated, the spirit of the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen collapsed, and they collapsed on the ground, gasped for breath, looked exhausted, and gulped down mouthfuls of water. Yang Feng played a little trick in the mist, making the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen as well as their mounts thirsty. The consumption of water was more than 5 times that of ordinary times. Lawrence led the main force of the Beastman Empire to catch up from the rear. When he saw the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen collapsed on the ground, Lawrence's complexion changed dramatically, and he shouted at once, "High Priest! Come out!" An old man with a pair of lion ears slowly walked out. He had 9 feathers on his head, and his face was painted with layers of camouflage paint. He looked old, like a pile of wrinkled orange peel that was squeezed into a ball. He was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a pair of lion ears. This old man was Danilo, Lawrence's high priest who had followed him in the army. On the Feisua plain, there were powerful beings with extraordinary power like wizards. The only thing that the Beastman Empire could contend against was the shaman priests who believed in gods. According to the classification of the Xianxia plain, this high priest Danilo possessed terrifying strength comparable to that of a level 3 warlock. Lawrence pointed at the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen collapsed on the ground and asked solemnly, "High priest, what's wrong with them?" Danilo silently recited an incantation and pointed at the 2,000 demonic horned lion cavalrymen. Yellow light shrouded the demonic horned lion cavalrymen, and then the demonic horned lion cavalrymen emitted dark gray magic light. Danilo said unhurriedly, "There are magic fluctuations coming from them. They should have been hit by a spell like fog or labyrinth. It seems that there is a powerful wizard behind the half-blood beastmen." Lawrence asked with some concern, "Are they going to be okay?" Lawrence was cruel and bloodthirsty, but he also knew that the bloody lion knights were the foundation of his tyrannical and perverse behavior. If the warriors of the Bloody Lion Knights were all dead, his status as a Grand Prince in the Beastman Empire would plummet. Danilo said casually, "It's fine. As long as they are given some water and food, they will soon recover." Lawrence's face darkened slightly and became extremely unsightly. Danilo raised his eyebrows and whispered, "Is there not enough provisions?" Lawrence sighed hatefully, "There is enough provisions, but I underestimated the drought in the Red Earth wasteland. Marching here consumes 3 times more water than marching in ordinary areas. If we can't find a water source, we will have to retreat." The weather in the Red Earth wasteland was dry, and the moisture content in the air was thin. Lawrence didn't have the experience of marching on a large scale in the Red Earth wasteland. According to his experience of marching in ordinary areas, he carried water, but as a result, he was in a dilemma. Danilo said categorically, "Your Highness Grand Prince, don't worry. Don't the over 100,000 half-blood beastmen need water to migrate in the Red Earth wasteland? With over 100,000 of them, they will need more water than us. Unless a god helps them, there must be a water source nearby." A Bloody Lion Knight quickly came to Lawrence's side and said with a mixed expression, "Your Highness Grand Prince, this subordinate has an important matter to report." Lawrence said, "What's the matter? Speak." The Bloody Lion Knight said with a look of grief and indignation, "We found a water source in the southwest. But the water source has been poisoned by those damn half-blood beastman bastards. A dozen brothers drank the water, and then were poisoned by those bastards." Lawrence's eyes flashed with ecstasy, and he burst into laughter. "Water source, ha! Sure enough, there's a water source. High Priest Danilo, I'll have to trouble you." Danilo nodded slightly and revealed a smile. Lawrence immediately led the army forward and soon saw a huge pond in front of him. Lawrence took several high-ranking officers and Danilo forward and arrived at the edge of the pond. At the edge of the pond, there were the corpses of a dozen demonic horned lions and their knights. Apparently, after the demonic horned lion knights saw the water source, they couldn't help but drink a few mouthfuls. Danilo arrived next to a knight's corpse, slightly opened its eyelids, and carefully examined it for a while. Then he cut open the knight's corpse with his claws, licked the black blood inside, and closed his eyes. After a while, he silently recited an incantation, and a gray light enveloped his body and purified the toxins inside him. Danilo said solemnly, "This is molo grass mixed with black bat wings, lizard tails, heart-eroding grass, and a dozen other poisons. It's highly toxic. It's highly toxic. Even a demonic horned lion would be poisoned to death with just a sip of this pool of water." Welcome to Legends of Cultivation audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.